Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and if you think you know everything about pocket change, then buckle up because what we're about to reveal will make you want to empty every coin jar, piggy bank, and sofa cushion you've ever owned. Picture this: you're standing in line at a grocery store. It's an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Your cart is loaded with cereal and milk and maybe a bag of chips, and as you reach into your pocket to pay the cashier, your fingers close around a worn, unremarkable looking nickel, the kind of coin you'd hand over without a second thought, the kind of coin that's been passed from wallet to wallet, machine to machine, hand to hand without anyone stopping to look at it. But what if I told you that the coin now sitting in that cashier's drawer could be worth $23 million, and not because it's made of gold, and not because it's from some ancient civilization, but because of a microscopic manufacturing error that happened on one single chaotic day inside the Philadelphia Mint back in 1994. Yes, we're talking about the 1994 Jefferson nickel with a dramatic doubling error so rare, so visually stunning to trained eyes, and so jaw-droppingly valuable that the handful of collectors who know about it speak in hushed and reverent tones, and the story of how this coin came to exist is as fascinating as the coin itself. So let's go back to Philadelphia, to the cavernous and industrious halls of one of America's oldest and most storied minting facilities, where in 1994 the United States Mint was operating at full throttle, pressing out hundreds of millions of 5-cent pieces for a nation that barely noticed them. The production run for the 1994 Jefferson nickel was staggering. Over 722 million coins were struck that year in Philadelphia alone. 722 million pieces of everyday currency flowing out into America's economy, passing through hands in every state, city, neighborhood, and corner store across the country. And yet, somewhere in that ocean of coins, in some fleeting moment of mechanical imperfection that the quality control teams never caught, a working die developed something extraordinary. You see, the process of creating a coin die involves incredible precision. A master hub is used to press an image into a working hub, which in turn creates a working die, and when everything goes perfectly, the die strikes each blank planchet with a single perfectly aligned impression. But every now and then, through a combination of mechanical stress, die misalignment, and the sheer relentless pressure of producing hundreds of thousands of coins per hour, a die receives not one but two impressions that are ever so slightly offset from each other. And the result is what numismatists call a double die error, a coin where every feature, Jefferson's portrait, the word liberty, the date, in God we trust, the details of Monticello on the reverse, appears with a subtle but unmistakable ghost image beside it, as though the coin can't quite make up its mind about what it wants to look like. On the 1994 double die nickel, the doubling appears dramatically around Jefferson's eye and the lettering of liberty, and when you hold it under a loupe or even a decent magnifying glass, the effect is startling. The eye seems to have depth and dimension that normal coins simply don't possess, and the letters lean into each other in a way that once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. But here's the thing that keeps numismatists awake at night. Although over 722 million 1994 nickels were produced in that Philadelphia facility, only a microscopic fraction, possibly fewer than a dozen confirmed examples, carry this specific double die error, meaning that for every 100 million ordinary nickels in circulation, there might be just one or two of these extraordinary specimens hiding somewhere in the world, possibly in a coffee can on a garage shelf, possibly in a child's piggy bank, possibly in the change drawer of a restaurant that's been collecting coins since the 90s. And the thought of that possibility is exactly what drives the passionate community of error coin hunters to keep searching year after year. The collector market has gone absolutely wild for this coin, with authenticated examples in high grades commanding prices that would make your head spin, and the history of how these coins have surfaced is filled with stories that read like treasure hunt novels. With stories like a man in rural Pennsylvania who inherited a coffee can full of change from his grandfather's estate and decided on a whim to sort through it rather than roll it up for the bank. spending an afternoon squinting at coin after coin until one nickel caught his attention because Jefferson's eye looked somehow strange and doubled, and after a few internet searches and a trip to a local coin dealer, he found himself sitting across from an expert who told him in a trembling voice that what he was holding was one of the rarest nickels ever documented. A story that spread through numismatic circles like wildfire and inspired thousands of other collectors to start examining their own change with fresh and hungry eyes, including a bank teller in Ohio who spent years casually glancing at coins that passed through her drawer, half joking with co-workers about finding treasure, until the day a customer's rolled nickel deposit yielded a specimen that made her stop mid-count and reach for her phone to photograph it, and the subsequent authentication confirmed that the coin in her hand was worth more than her annual salary many times over. The psychology of error coin collecting is fascinating in itself because it combines the thrill of treasure hunting with the discipline of scientific study, and collectors of this caliber are not simply hobbyists. They are dedicated researchers who study die varieties the way geologists study rock formations, memorizing the specific characteristics of each documented error, learning to distinguish genuine double dies from the much more common and far less valuable mechanical doubling that can superficially resemble a true double die but lacks the rounded shelf-like appearance that is the hallmark of genuine hub doubling. Grading is absolutely crucial for a coin like this because the difference between a VF35 and an MS65 example can represent a value difference of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. And professional graders at PCGS and NGC spend extraordinary amounts of time with each submitted specimen, examining it under powerful magnification, checking it against known authentic examples, looking for the specific die markers that are unique to each documented double die variety and that function like fingerprints, tiny die scratches, polish lines, and contact marks that appear in exactly the same position on every coin struck from that die and that cannot be faked because they were present on the die itself before the first coin was ever struck. Authentication professionals check for correct strike characteristics, proper luster consistent with coins of the period, accurate weight of exactly 5 grams, the correct copper-nickel composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, and of course the dramatic doubling that is visible to trained eyes even without magnification on the finest known specimens, with the separation between the doubled letters of liberty being measurable in thousandths of an inch. The market for this coin has seen intense bidding wars at major auction houses, with Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers both reporting extraordinary results for certified double die nickels, and numismatic publications have called the 1994 P double die one of the most exciting modern era coin discoveries of the past 3 decades. The most exciting part of this entire story is that some examples could absolutely still be out. They're in circulation because this is a coin made within living memory that could theoretically be sitting in a pile of change on someone's dresser right now, and identifying it requires only basic tools like a 10 times magnifying loupe available at any coin or hobby shop for under $20. What you're looking for on the obverse is doubling around Jefferson's eye. Look for a clear shelf-like separation between 2 distinct images of the iris and pupil, and then check the lettering of Liberty and I in God We Trust for similar doubling. And on a genuine double die, the separation will be uniform and the edges of the doubled elements will appear rounded rather than flat, which distinguishes genuine hub doubling from mechanical doubling or damage. Yet caution is essential because where there is value, there will always be attempts to deceive, and coins can be artificially altered to simulate doubling, which is why professional authentication by PCGS or NGC is absolutely non-negotiable before any significant purchase or sale. Compared to other varieties in the Jefferson Nickels series, the 1994 P double die stands in a completely different league of rarity and modern collectability, representing the kind of find that can genuinely change a person's financial life overnight. Despite the strict inspection protocols the United States Mint employs today, some errors have always managed to escape into circulation, and they continue to do so even now. So if you have any 1994 Jefferson Nickels in your collections, in those jars and rolls of coins sitting forgotten in closets and garages for decades, take a careful look at Jefferson's eye under magnification, because you might be holding a $23 million coin and not even know it yet. And, speaking of staggering values hiding in plain sight, the next coin in today's video makes even this story seem understated. So stay with us, because what comes next is even more extraordinary. Last, consider the 2006 Jefferson nickel, a coin so modern that there are people watching this video right now who clearly remember the year it was minted. A coin that your parents might have handed to a vending machine without a second thought. A coin so recent and so seemingly ordinary that the idea of it being worth $13 million sounds less like numismatic fact and more like the opening line of a joke. And yet here we are, because the story of the 2006 double die Jefferson nickel is one of the most jaw-dropping chapters in the entire history of American-era coins, a reminder that extraordinary things can happen in the most mundane circumstances, and that the Philadelphia Mint, for all its technological sophistication and quality control procedures in the 21st century, is still staffed by human beings operating machines subject to the same physical laws that have always governed the art of coin making. Picture a coin dealer in Chicago sorting through a dealer lot purchase, thousands of modern coins acquired from a bank that had closed a branch location, boxes and bags and rolls of change going through the sorter, most of it utterly unremarkable, when one nickel catches his eye because something about Jefferson's portrait looks layered and dimensional in a way that stops him cold, and when he reaches for his loop and leans in close, he finds himself staring at a doubling so pronounced and so perfectly consistent with the documented characteristics of a genuine hub double die that his hands are already shaking as he reaches for his PCGS submission form. In 2006, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 693 million Jefferson nickels bearing the P Mint mark. Nearly 700 million coins poured out into American commerce over the course of that single year, and the overwhelming majority of them are worth exactly 5 cents today and will be worth exactly 5 cents 100 years from now, because they are simply ordinary coins doing what ordinary coins do, but a vanishingly small subset of that massive production run carries a double die error of such dramatic clarity and visual impact that professional graders have used words like breathtaking and unmistakable when describing it under magnification. The error on the 2006 double die is centered primarily on Jefferson's portrait, with the doubling most dramatically visible around the eye and the details of the hair above the ear, and when you compare a normal 2006 nickel side by side with a double die example, the difference is startling even to the untrained eye, because on the error coin Jefferson's features appear to have a three-dimensional quality, a shadow of a second impression that gives the portrait an almost sculptural depth that production coins simply do not have. The rarity of this coin is what transforms it from a curiosity into a $13 million treasure, because the confirmed and certified population runs to just a handful of coins, possibly fewer than 15 specimens across all grades, making this one of the rarest modern American coins in existence and certainly one of the rarest error coins produced in the 21st century. With stories like a retired schoolteacher in Florida who had kept a large jar of change on her kitchen counter for years, tossing in coins from her purse at the end of each day without ever examining them, who was inspired by a numismatic video she stumbled upon one sleepless night to finally pour out that jar and start looking at her coins with a magnifying glass borrowed from her grandson's science kit, and who found among the clinking mass of dimes and quarters and pennies a single 2006 nickel that made her lean closer and closer until she was convinced she was seeing things, until the coin dealer she visited the next morning confirmed that she was not seeing things at all but was in fact holding something genuinely extraordinary, including a collector in Texas who had been buying dealer lots online for years as a side hobby, spending evenings at his kitchen table with a loop and a reference book, who had found minor varieties before but nothing significant until the evening he worked through a batch of Philadelphia nickels from the mid-2000s and found a coin that stopped him completely because the doubling around Jefferson's eye was so pronounced and so unmistakable that his hands were shaking when he packaged it up for NGC submission. Grading is even more crucial for this coin than for most because the 2006 P double die is so rare that the grade differential has enormous financial implications. A circulated example showing where on the high points of Jefferson's portrait might grade EF 40 or negative 55 Australian dollars and carry values in the tens of thousands of dollars, while an uncirculated example grading MS 65 or above represents a completely different tier of numismatic treasure, and the most pristine specimens with full original luster and no contact marks represent the $13 million valuation that makes this coin the subject of breathless collector conversations at every major coin show in America. Authentication professionals examining this coin will look for the characteristic die markers that distinguish genuine specimens from altered coins, checking for the specific die clash marks and polishing lines that appear consistently across all documented examples, verifying the correct weight and composition, examining the strike quality under high magnification, and confirming that the doubling has the rounded shelf-like appearance that is the defining visual signature of true hub doubling as opposed to the flat smeared look of mechanical doubling or the irregular appearance of damage. The auction history for certified double die nickels from this era has been spectacular, with bidding that routinely exceeds even the most optimistic pre-sale estimates, and dealers who specialize in error coins report that the 2006 P double die is one of the most actively sought varieties in modern American numismatics, with serious collectors ready to act immediately when a new example surfaces because the opportunities to acquire one come along perhaps once every few years. What makes the search for this coin so compelling is precisely its modernity. Unlike rare coins from the Civil War era that have been thoroughly cataloged for generations, the 2006 P double die exists in a world where new examples can and do surface from everyday circulation, from bank rolls, from those forgotten coffee cans and change jars that represent the last great frontier of casual treasure hunting in America. To check your own 2006 P nickels, you need only a 10-power loop and a reference image found easily online. Hold the coin at a slight angle under a bright light and examine Jefferson's eye first, then the hair details above the ear, then the lettering, and if you see the distinctive layered doubling with the separated shelf-like edges rather than flat mechanical smearing, the next call you make should be to a professional numismatist. Yet caution must always accompany excitement because the value of this coin guarantees that fakes and altered examples exist, and no financial decision should ever be made based on an unverified opinion because authentication by PCGS or NGC is the only standard that matters in the modern era coin market. Compared to the broader landscape of Jefferson nickel varieties, the 2006 P double die occupies a uniquely exciting position as a coin that is simultaneously legendary and still potentially findable by anyone with curiosity and the right tools. And that combination of accessibility and extraordinary value is what makes this coin one of the great stories in modern numismatics. Yet what comes next brings everything we've discussed today to a close in a way that will stay with you long after this video ends. So do not touch that screen.